I want to save $5,000 for a ring this summer. And so then you go, well, school lets out April 30th. I've got May, June, July, and August. I've got 4 months to save
Yeah.
up 5 grand. And I'm gonna caddy at a golf course. I'm gonna do DoorDash. I'm gonna do Grubhub or Uber Eats, or I'm gonna apply for the type of internship that can also build the bank account and the resume at the
hmm
same time. But I think that there is something so powerful about a time-sensitive goal.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the FY podcast. If we haven't met, we are Mike and Josiah Keneally.
And we're your hosts right here. Every Friday, we unpack a new episode where we answer one of your questions as the listener, as the viewer on YouTube. And today, we're actually fusing and combining two of our favorite topics. Your favorite topic, Micah, is?
Relationships,
So
for
this is going
sure.
to apply to you if you're single, if you're dating, even if you're engaged. And
Maybe if you're newly married, too. Who
what's one of
knows?
my favorite topics?
Finances.
And do you see how this is like, you're going to get, I pray, the best of Micah, the best of Josiah, and we pray for you often as the young adult listening, tuning in. And we're going to talk in this video about 5 ways to date on a budget. And to start, I've got 5 rapid fire questions for you, Micah. We
Oh,
can
do
go
I even
back
know
and
them?
forth,
I
but
feel like I need to loosen up here.
should the man pay every time?
Yes and no.
I am gonna say this.
Say it.
100% yes. The guy should pay, reach for the bill every single date. Absolutely, the guy should be paying.
I'll defend my answer later with one of my ideas. That's why I said
Okay,
yes and no.
we're
Okay.
there.
Okay.
How much should a date cost, Micah?
Oh my gosh. I'd say no more than $20 between the two of you.
Okay.
I mean, if you really want to ball on a budget.
Question 3 is give me an example, or the listener really, of a $20 or less date.
I think that is going for a walk, grabbing ice cream, and just spending time together.
Yep.
That's a cheap date.
Mini golf would be another one.
Yeah.
Usually less than $20, depending where you go.
And here's the thing, the city, no matter where you live, I would say for the most part, there's always type of deals going on. So if it's like a 2-for-1 burger at B-Dubs, you could get a burger at B-Dubs, like buy one, get one, like the BOGOs or the half offs or the whatever.
Yes.
So, or share a meal. What the heck?
This is also a little bit off topic, but what's the bare minimum amount to tip at a restaurant?
Bare
If so,
minimum.
B-dubs and it's BOGO burgers. What's the minimum tip?
I always give people at least $6 to $10, depending on how many people are at the table.
So I would say 20% minimum there.
For sure.
Okay. And
Don't
then
be chintzy and cheap. And if you've been in the serving world, you will have an appreciation for your server. Even if they don't do the best job, you'll have an appreciation.
any questions from me? There's room for 2 questions.
Ooh, what is one of your favorite cheap dates that you and I have been on?
You know what? We live in Minnesota. The Twins play, and there's access. Like I got a text last night. Do you want 4 tickets to tomorrow's Twins game? So like we've been blessed sometimes by like I remember our friend Brandon. He is a singer. Brandon Ray. He came to town. He gave us tickets to his own concert.
hmm
So those are fun memories. I can think of a lot of other ones, but I mean, I think one of our best dates was Jamba Juice
Yeah.
at Centennial Lakes. Walk, there's a swing that we sat on.
Yeah. That's great.
Outside, nice out, $15 for 2 smoothies.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What if somebody listening is taking the relationship to the next level and it's not just a one night date night,
Hmm.
but it's twice a week? That's we
Yeah.
shifted from one to two. And how did that impact your finances, your wallet, or what was your process even in spending time together, but also spending probably more money in that investment process? Like, what would you encourage a listener with today if they're there?
Where there's a will, there's a way. And so I'm passionate about like, I can't think of a single date that we ever went on where you paid.
I don't think so. No.
And so there was a point though, and it was about that time where we went from one date to two, and you're like, Josiah, we're eating out a lot. just so you know, my expectation isn't that we always eat out.
Hmm.
It isn't that you always have to pay. And you started thinking there was like wedding bells that we were both hearing. We were dating with the intention of
Yeah.
marriage, but you started thinking about that could be money towards a ring, Josiah. That could be money towards
A
a
future,
honeymoon
a
or a wedding.
house,
That could be
wedding,
money towards a
whatever.
house. And I agree with all of those things.
Yeah. I'll just share one of my favorite free dates. And I don't even know how we actually landed on this, but there was a restaurant called Crave that needed a bunch
Yes.
of test dummies for a supper. And they literally served us a three-course meal. So you went there, you had somehow we got this ticket for two free people, and you would have your appetizer, your entree, and then your dessert, and then your beverage of choice, like whatever you wanted.
I took good care of my barber, and he had a barber shop across the street from this awesome restaurant that was grand opening, and it was their pre-opening that they needed to train their hosts, waiters, waitresses,
Chefs,
servers.
people in the
Yeah,
back.
they were
Yeah.
training, and they wanted to do a soft launch,
Yeah.
so it was like a $75 plate.
Yeah.
That like, and that's way more than we would have spent even to this day on a meal,
Yeah.
and that was free. But that's why a tip minimum, if you take good care of people, they'll
Yeah.
also take good care of you. That was a really fun date.
Well, and here's a tip I would say right out of the gate before we even kind of get to what we're talking about. We are not dessert people. Like we don't go somewhere and get appetizers and
Right.
entree and dessert.
No.
Either one of two things. One, we'll get two or three appetizers and share everything,
Yep.
or we'll each get an entree, maybe split it,
Hmm.
or we'll get like an entree and an appetizer to share. So there's those shareables. So just taking into consideration that you don't need to have a three-course meal everywhere you go. Focus on one of the three, and you can split that however that looks like on the table, not checkwise when I say split.
For sure. And even like Chipotle is one of our favorite like spots for we'll get a salad or burrito bowl.
Hmm.
There's so much food there. We'll add on chips and guac,
Yeah.
split it. That's less than 20 bucks
Yep.
for us both to be filled up with an amazing meal
Yeah.
that's decently healthy, depending on your preferences and options, but you can make it
You
healthy.
can
And
make it happen too.
today's question comes from Joe.
Hmm.
Joe is a college student. He's in a committed relationship. Check out the question that Joe had to ask us on the FYI podcast.
Hey guys, we are at Called Conference. I'm here with my friend Joe, and he has a question for young adults.
Well, Dom, one of the things I ran into this last year was, I'm going to college, I'm in a committed relationship, and, I want to prioritize that relationship by taking her out on special dates. But because I'm in college, I'm on a tight budget. So what are some good ways to keep the romantic side of the date and the relationship going while living on a tight budget?
Great question, very practical. We're going to address it on the FYI podcast.
Awesome. We love Joe and we
We're
love
back.
that question. And we are back. And before we even kick things off with answering his question, the verse of the day comes from Proverbs 22:7. And it says, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower, is servant to the lender. And just keeping in mind of how we spend our money, how we invest our money, how we keep our money, how we give of our money does matter, not only to your financial budget on this side of eternity, but it does impact the heart of Christ in that process of what we're building and what we're spending our funds on, essentially.
Well, and I don't know who came up with these quotes. They're all unattributed, but I have three quotes that I just like, they spoke to me, and I think they'll speak to the listener as well. That first, love is not measured by the size of the wallet, but by the size of the heart.
Hmm.
And what's fascinating, there is data and research that match this up that the divorce rate doesn't go down based on the size of the diamond or the ring. It actually goes up.
Wow. That's
Oof.
wild.
So, and even like your marriage doesn't have a higher rate of success if you spend more money on your wedding.
Right.
And so I think it's even like less is more. I don't know if you feel this way, Micah, but I
Hmm.
look back at singleness, dating, engaged, and then starting out our marriage together. We had pretty much $0 in the bank. We were renting a condo right along the Minnesota River. I would go running almost every day after work. We'd usually go for a walk most
Hmm.
nights after supper.
Hmm.
Life was so simple. And I have such fond memories of that simple season of life where we had fewer expenses,
Mm-hmm.
where we had probably overall less income, less resources. Those are some of my favorite memories.
Well, I think when you look at the Word of God, when it talks about don't despise small beginnings, I think if you were talking to anybody who was 20, 30, 40, 50 years into marriage, they probably look back fondly on those memories as well because there was a dependency on God and a new chapter starting of understanding each other. So it's like I think those first couple years of anybody's marriage, if you're not born into wealth or saved wealth up until that wedding day, is really realizing like we're a team and how are we going to do this? How are we going to
Mhm.
figure this out? How are we going to keep God at the center and keep the main thing the main thing? And I think if you would talk to my parents, they would say that like we drove down to Arizona and moved down there literally with everything in one 1969 Camaro. Like everything we owned as a couple fit in that car.
There's an author and pastor named Erwin McManus, Pastor's Mosaic
Hmm.
in LA. What's really interesting is he has done filmmaking. He's had both a church that's really
Hmm.
innovative,
Hmm.
but he's also done a lot in film and art, etc. And he once had a business deal go south and he lost millions of dollars, which accounted for everything.
Yeah.
He came home to his wife that day and he said, "Babe, I lost everything." And he shared what her response was, and it blew my mind. She responded, Erwin's wife responded by saying, "I thought I was your everything."
Yep.
And so, man, I know that there can be the tendency for people who have accumulated some degree of wealth to almost romanticize those founder stories, those origin stories. And I don't know many of them who would go back and say, like, yeah, I'd like to lower my income or I'd like to lower my net worth. But I think it's also the amount of young people that we know that wish they had more. I double down on what you just quoted of don't despise the day of small beginnings because the Lord
Hmm.
rejoices when the work begins. The second quote is a
Hmm.
great date doesn't have to cost a fortune. It just has to be memorable.
Hmm.
Comment on that.
I just think that if you really want to do life with somebody, you're not building financial wealth on date one. You're not, you know what I mean? Like you're building memories. Like we look back fondly on those memories because remember what it was like not to have everything that we currently have now, both the good and the bad, right? More responsibility, but then also this more dependence of God and independence from our stuff. So I just think like we're here to build memories. Like the memories outlast anything that you can pay for. And even if you pay for a trip, like you don't necessarily remember everything with a trip if you come home being able to pay for it, but you remember all the memories. So I don't know. I just think of memories outlast the dollar bill in multiple ways in my mind.
Man, one of the books, the first book that I ever wrote was called Debtless, and it was helping college students and young adults really take on less debt. And it was really about college students or the late high school student and their parent, their family, thinking about how do I graduate with little to no debt in
Yep.
student loans. But I think that it's not just student loans that are the leading cause of debt. In a young adult life, it could be credit card debt. It
Mm-hmm.
could be a car payment.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a mortgage. It could be other lines of credit or loans. My favorite line in the book, Debtless, is that less debt is better than more debt. And man, when I say that, it's a little bit controversial because those who have an affinity for real estate, almost all of them are going to disagree with me. But at the end of the day, long term, I know that there's some people who call mortgages good debt,
Right.
et cetera, or they're trying to leverage their debt to build wealth and equity in the future. But at the end of the day, I believe that when we go back to Proverbs 22:7, the rich rule over the poor and the borrower is servant to the lender. And I remember talking to George Camel,
Mm-hmm.
financial expert and YouTuber. He has written extensively and podcasted and YouTubed extensively on finances
Right.
and helping. I mean, he went from a negative net worth to millionaire, paid off his home by age 34.
Yeah.
And he had just said that, look, And I'd say the same thing to a listener or viewer today that debt isn't a sin. It just means you're not completely free.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just saying we want freedom for you. And so, Joe, love your question
Mm-hmm.
about how do we date on a budget? And Micah, what do you say that we kick it to the 5 ways to date on a budget? And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
kick it to
Well,
the first one.
well, Andy Stanley teaches like first we're gonna give first, save second, and then live on the rest. And do we have a meeting?
Keep rolling.
Just kidding. We're rolling here. Is number one, I'd say live on less than what you make.
Yep.
And I know that you read that, you're like, well, duh, that's common sense. That makes sense mathematically. But if you are one that lives currently and you're young, paycheck to paycheck, and you find yourself having your paycheck already spent before it's actually in your name, those are like red warning flags and signs of some unhealthy spending habits. Or you're trying to aggressively get rid of debt. So, meaning like, oh, it's already spent, meaning like, there's my car payment, there's my cell phone bill, there's my insurance, there's my whatever. It's already gonna be taken out. I know that I'm not gonna be getting 750. I'm probably gonna take home 200 if that.
Right.
So I mean, like being able to spend less than what you earn and stop living paycheck to paycheck. Like I think every young adult, I was there for years.
Totally. The comment on living less than your make, you quoted Andy Stanley, one of my favorite Bible teachers. Give first,
Mm-hmm.
save second,
Yeah.
live on the rest. And he broke it down this way 5 weeks ago in a series that I listened to. And he
Yeah.
said that when you spend first, it's your kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
When you save, it's actually your kingdom. But when you give, it's God's kingdom.
That's good.
And so we put God's kingdom first. We seek first the kingdom of God. That's been our theme all year,
Yeah.
all of 2025. And so we seek God's kingdom when it comes to our
Mm-hmm.
money, our finances, our relationships, everything. And then on the saving side, so giving a minimum of 10%. And I think then living less than you make, the hack with saving that my financial advisor who
Mm-hmm.
became our financial advisor, the hack that he gave I thought was so good,
Hmm.
which he said, just start saving in a different bank account. So he opened a separate account when we were saving for the down payment on a house.
Yeah.
We were still renting, but it was like out of sight, out of mind. It moved with every paycheck from account A to bank B.
Yeah.
And just by doing that, you're not going to spend the money because you're already used to living on less than you make, which kind of leads us to point two.
Yeah. So if you are a gentleman listening and you do want to get married, you're in a serious committed relationship, I would say save for a ring, a wedding, a honeymoon, and a future home. Start making those small investments now, whether it's 20, 50, 100, 200, whatever your amount is able to allot towards that future, I think is wise. I think it's practical. I think it's saying like, and it's truly sitting down and looking at like Josiah and I, every time we revisit this, if you look at some of the commercials they have nowadays and like, I'll give you X amount of money if you can tell me how many apps you're paying for on a monthly basis. If you as a young adult are not on your parents or friends or somebody else's streaming of Hulu or Instagram or what or of anything else, like I think
Yes.
it's just really realizing that what am I actually paying for and what am I actually using? So, for example, like I love Hallmark, but during this time of year, I don't pay $7.99 for a Hallmark channel because I don't have time to watch it. Come winter, maybe for 2 months, November to December, I'm willing to pay $15 for unlimited movies where I'm stuck inside. It's more wintry. We're baking. We're getting set up for Christmas. So even just looking at taking that like $15 versus spreading that through $7.99 each month unnecessarily. So I'm like, I'm not going to pay for an extra 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
So being mindful, I know that we have in the past, like we're like an ESPN or some game, we're just going to pay for the app for 1 month and then delete
Correct.
it. And then we're not
Correct.
going to get auto slammed every
Yep.
month for
Yep.
$59.99 or whatever, whatever the
Totally.
crazy numbers are for some of the things that you might be subscribed to. So when I say taking a look at putting money towards your ring, your future, your honeymoon, what are you currently using that is unnecessary and you just can put on hold and you could always reactivate later when it comes to forms of social media or entertainment through the Netflix accounts if you are not on a family plan that's providing it freely for you. Because those numbers, whoa, that could be $120 to $300 a month, depending on who you are and what you actually enjoy and watch on some entertainment stuff.
I love what Micah just said. Number two, she's saying get rid of extra expenses. There's two ways to grow your budget.
Yep.
And we're talking about margin, breathing room, five ways to date on a budget. Number one was live on less than you make. Number two is save and monitor, like maybe it's cutting expenses. The third is where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And here's what I mean. For some of you, it was point two, like ding, ding, ding. I'm going to stop eating out so much. I'm going to stop the unnecessarily, like apps or subscriptions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to cut my expenses. And that way there's more money to save towards a ring. Or towards the future, or to date and evaluate, is this person the person I want to spend?
Drive me crazy. I just had to do it, you guys. I'm
Hey,
so sorry.
This
If
is
you're watching.
why two is better than one, and Micah makes me better on the daily. But where there's a will, there's a way. And so it might be point two is kind of lower your expenses. I want to jump in with number three, where there's a will, there's a way. Earn extra income.
Yeah.
And this could come from a side hustle. It's never been easier to launch a photography or videography side hustle, to design brands and websites, to be a social media manager for some businesses, ministries, authors,
Yeah.
speakers, individuals. But then make sure you're saving some of that income.
Yep.
And I mean, Micah, you had a couple ideas of just like maybe ways that you've seen young adults get gritty or scrappy or
Yeah.
boost their income maybe
my
as a
gosh.
college student.
Well, I even think about when I was back in college, I had so many friends that did this, but I was like, I can't, I just like, it makes me give me the heebie-jeebies thinking about it. But it's donating plasma. And you can do that a certain amount of times a month or a week or however they limit you. And they pay you. They pay you for
Yep.
your plasma.
Yep.
You go there, you sit, you do it. But I know that I had friends who started putting that money away, getting out of debt. Some friends took that money as grocery money for the month and said, hey, like I'm going to put this X amount of money towards my groceries or my Thursday Buffalo Wild Wings that we go out every week. So they allotted and counted the cost of like, what can I get paid for to do that I have time to do? And they could sit there and read a book for an hour, however long it takes. So it's like they were investing in themselves financially, but then also in another way. And that could be another way of you saving up for a honeymoon or a wedding or a ring or whatever. And it's just like, okay, donating plasma was something back in the day when I was there. And I don't know what that looks like now number wise, but I mean, you just get paid to do it.
Where there's a will,
There's
there's a
a
way,
way.
for sure. And number four is I want you to set a time sensitive goal. Set a
Mhm.
time sensitive goal. It could be I want to apply for a job this semester and bring in $500 a month. It could be
Ooh, that's good.
I want to save $5,000 for a ring this summer. And so then you go, well, school lets out April 30th. I've got May, June, July, and August. I've got 4 months to save
Yeah.
up $5,000. And I'm going to caddy at a golf course. I'm going to do DoorDash. I'm going to do Grubhub or Uber Eats, or I'm going to apply for the type of internship that can also build the bank account and the resume at the same time. But I think that there is something so powerful about a time sensitive goal. It's no secret that even though Micah and I graduated college debt free. When we got married, we paid off her student loans. It was like our
Yeah.
first act financially as a married couple.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say, like, get aggressive. And so Mike and I, it's no secret that we took out a 30-year mortgage when we moved into the home that we live in, but we're trying to pay it off ASAP. And if you ask me, or if you ask her, we're in a season where this doesn't just apply to dating
Right.
couples or singleness
Yeah.
or engagement. We have a time sensitive goal that I would say it's audacious, it's aggressive, it's God sized in a sense that for us to really hit the timeline that we have, God's going to need to show up because the income isn't quite there yet. But I look at what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Playing it safe?
Well, I think it's learning how to hate unnecessary debt.
Whoa, say that again
Learning how to hate unnecessary debt.
and say more about that.
Well, I just think about like if you are in the buying and selling of homes, like the real estate thing, like
Yep.
you're willing to play some Russian roulette, ready to play some Monopoly. I'm not talking to those people who are on that side. I'm talking to the people who are have poor spending habits. I'm talking about people who are racking up credit card bills that are unnecessary, thinking that they need to have the next best clothes, haircut, shoes, accessories, and it comes with a cost. But I think this generation is actually really thrifty.
Mhm.
So just like even going to secondhand stores instead of going right through the door.
Yo,
And stuff.
thrifting's a thing.
Well,
It's a
and
lifestyle.
sometimes the thrifting might actually be more expensive because it's come such a hot thing, more than a brand new thing at a Target, a Walmart, a Shields, whatever you're gonna do, however you're gonna shop.
I know a few
But
young adults that thrifting is their hobby
oh yeah, they
and
make
they
like
resell.
boxes, right?
Yeah,
And they'd
yeah,
be
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'll
Yep,
get you this jacket. I've
totally.
had people want to buy the clothes off of me at young adult events saying, if you ever get rid of this, this is vintage. Like I would be the first to make you an offer. I was like, okay, girl, like I'll keep you in mind, but I don't think this is going anywhere. But I mean, like, learn how to hate unnecessary debt
Micah, that is
because
profound.
I think that is a form of because we talk about or you talk about in your book even like the number one thing that prevents anybody from reaching their dreams is money or a lack of money because you're in the red. So we never want to live in the red when it comes to our finances because our spending habits in our singleness, our dating, our engagement do affect our marriage and our future. And that's passed on to our children. So it's like, as a young adult listening, like, what have you been exposed to in your family? What do you want to see changed? What was done well? What was done not so well? And what would you hope for your future self in your family tree? And I think that's where it's like, learn how to hate debt. Like, I know that that's how I grew up. Like, my family's never, ever, ever in their 68 and 62 years of life taken out a credit card or even
That's
had a
right.
debit card.
Yeah, 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 you're
I
right.
know that small town thinking, you're like, what if an emergency happens? Like, God's always provided for them, number one. And number two, some would argue, like, well, you need to build your credit. Like, and this come through. My mom and dad would apply for a house, and there was like ghost credits. Like, you don't exist in the credit world. Or like,
Mhm.
well, how can that be? Like, I bought a car for cash, or I did X, Y, and Z, or I had to take out a loan way back in the 80s.
Yep.
But really learning like how do we separate ourselves as Christ followers? One, we divorce the world. Two, we learn how to hate unnecessary debt.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
necessary debts, I would say, would probably be your education, probably be
Absolutely.
your home.
Yep.
So I'm not talking about those things.
Yep.
I'm talking about the spending habits and the character that needs to be built, learning how to steward what God has given you in whatever season you find yourself in.
Man, and I just want to talk to the guys, the young men, for a second.
Hmm.
That a myth that I believed when I was younger that I just want to kind of dispel or
Debunk.
parse out, debunk is a great word, is that like this applies to marriage, this applies to parenting.
Hmm.
I thought that Micah expected me to provide when God's our provider. I thought that our girls and Micah maybe deserved more than I could make, things like that. And when I talk to them, when I look at Micah or our daughters in the eye, do you know what they want? They don't want more money. They don't want nicer things.
Right.
Do you know what they want?
Time.
Time. Time with me.
Time.
And so, Joe, I just want to talk to you and anyone who would be like, bro, I had the same question. This is so good. I'm texting my roommates. I'm sharing this episode on Spotify.
Mhm.
I want my friends, my small group to hear this. Like, before we get into the fifth way to date on a budget, I just want to talk to you and say that I think your girlfriend, maybe soon to be fiance, she just wants more time with you.
Mhm.
And so hang out in groups,
Mhm.
do fun things,
Mhm.
and be willing to like spend some money because, like, hey, sometimes fun, it's like a concert or Applebee's or the community. There's a cost sometimes with food or working out, even, or a gym membership. But I think your significant other that
Mhm.
you're dating, this applies to anyone, or even your spouse or your kids. They just want more of your time.
Yeah. Well, and not to negate the fact that God has put it in men to be a form of a provider,
Yep.
to be a
Yep.
protector, to be
Yep.
that covering.
Yep.
And it's not saying that those things don't matter. It's just saying there's always going to be more money to be made. And if you're in the ministry world, there's always going to be one more soul to be won to Christ. There's always going to be one more thing on your to-do list that you want to get done, but they do just want to spend time with you. And that's where I think the fifth one comes in is like, you don't have to spend money to have fun. And one thing that Josiah and I did, or that I did for Josiah, when I said, hey, we're doing 2 date nights now, here are some fun ideas that you could get creative with. One is every other date night. So it's like Tuesday nights would be Josiah's date plan, Friday would be mine, or whatever you want to do. So this is an example I will use is that I would plan a Tuesday night with Josiah in mind, something fun within a budget of less than $10 to $20. And you can get really gritty with $10 to $20. And so we would just plan each other a date night with the other person in mind of what they might like, what they might want to do, where they might want to go. But then there's also this other component that I did is I literally put together all these envelopes. This was years ago. Put together all these envelopes, and on the outside it would say like what you need. Bring a pair of tennis shoes and sunscreen or whatever. And then inside would tell you like, oh, we're gonna go to Centennial Lakes, or we're gonna go for a trail run at XYZ, because find something you both love to do. And then you just get to pick an envelope and read what's inside. And sometimes I'd put money inside, like, hey, here's $10 to go, get an appetizer. Here's $10 to go get ice cream. Here's $20 to go do mini golf or whatever it is. So I think that as a female, I think you can also pursue the person that you are dating in a way that you're thinking of them too. Like, I don't think it's 100% up to the guy to always plan every single thing for the girl to be like, where are we going? Where are we going to go eat? What are we going to do? To take some pressure off the guy who's already nervous to probably be on those first
Yeah.
dates with you.
Yeah.
I mean, throw your name in the hat and be like, hey, I love to plan the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to decide what that is and looks like when it comes to that. Like, go to Minnehaha Falls and walk at the falls for free. Go grab a coffee and split a big one. Like, I don't know, it doesn't matter what it is. So it's like the envelope thing was really fun, and it just creates some fun opportunities. So just get creative, be creative. If you're outdoor people, could be, hey, I enrolled us in a pickleball tournament. Like,
Let's go.
what? How? I didn't know that.
And when it came to like birthdays or Christmas and stuff like that,
Yeah.
one of the things that I noticed is like I remember you got us concert tickets.
Hmm.
So we kind of aimed at gifts were more about experiences than things.
Right.
And to this day, that's something that our family kind of lives by. Last year, we forwent all Christmas gifts and we went on a family trip instead.
Hmm.
And because our daughters, they do like things and gifts and stuff, and we do, but they also get plenty of that from aunts and uncles and grandparents.
Right.
And we kind of went like, man, we would like to take more family trips. We would like to prioritize the priorities of spending time together
Yeah.
and building those
Yep.
memories. And so the fifth point that Mike already just talked about, or fifth way to date on a budget, is get creative with ideas.
Hmm.
You talked about the envelopes. Do you have anything else practical? Because I don't want to tell the listener these are the only creative ideas. I want you to think for yourself too. But babe, any other thoughts on creative ideas for dates, dating on a budget?
Oh man, you could just have a date in, cook a meal together, learn something new together, paint rocks or paint those portraits. You see all these fun portraits where you're painting each other, then you turn it around and show them like who's the more artistic one, or oh, that's what I look like to you. I mean, you could have those fun moments too. I mean, is there anything that you're thinking of specifically?
No, I feel like you're sometimes the queen at this, but I think of like the other thing too is like some of our favorite memories that like we have gone on bike rides with other couples. We have done bonfires with other couples.
Kayaking.
Yes. So I think getting outside, it happens to be springtime and almost summer
Yeah.
as we record this in Minnesota. And so like there is an entire world out there. Get in nature, get creative. Um, I remember I made a list of date ideas that I borrowed from Micah Mack and Chris Roush.
No way, I
Those
didn't
were
know this.
two like super creative, super romantic people. I'll see if I still have
I
the
didn't know
iPhone
about
note
this list. It's like
date
10 years old.
ideas. If it is, okay. Um, haha. Yeah.
Ha ha
I
ha.
found a July 30th, 2018. I had made it,
Oh my
but I
word.
have a list of maybe 100 ideas, but like amusement park, Valley Fair when it's summer. There was a exhibit called Science Behind Pixar, ice skating, Duluth Christmas lights, REI movie. Surprise, where are we going? Lunch and a walk around the community center, Jamba Juice and a walk around Lake Calhoun, Frisbee golf,
Hmm.
Minnehaha Falls, Malt Shop off 50th in Minneapolis, A to Z alphabetical ideas, ice skating, um, so many. We'll see if
Hey,
this makes it
well, and I'd say
into
even if you have an Apple store near you and you both are Apple users, go to the Mall of America and they will take you on a field trip. You sign up for a free class learning how to like do photography and they'll
on your
take you,
iPhone.
yeah, so they'll take you as a couple
Yeah, that
throughout
was
the whole
so fun.
mall and say, hey, like check out this. This is how you use this. So they kind of briefly show you some features of your phone that you're probably actually unaware of. And then at the very end, like, I don't know, it's like a 45-minute class, an hour maybe. And it's just super fun. So you're there with the other group of people, but then you break off into who you came with. And then at the very end, you pick one of the pictures and you edit it and do something fun with it. And then you throw it up for everybody else to see. So that's just a fun way at an Apple store to get to know your phone better. But then also you become like the models or you're looking at objects or colors or whatever it is. That was super fun. We just did that as it was actually a work day thing that we did. That was super fun. That could be a date night.
Amazing. We'll close here, but how we're going to close is help a brother out, help a sister out in the comments, in the chat on Spotify and on YouTube. Drop a note of what was your favorite creative date idea that you've ever been on. So weigh
Ooh.
in on this, Joe. What are you learning about this? What did we miss? What would you add? What can we cover? And you can also join an amazing community called the FYI podcast on Instagram. Make sure you follow along. We'll drop a post on there with creative ways to date on a budget that make sure you add to that
Yeah.
comments. You can ask a question by sending us a DM or visiting www.fyi-podcast.com. Until next time, you're listening to the FYI podcast.